1 year ago, this was the eye of a political storm. Barnard Castle used to be known for its Bowes Museum, medieval castle, and for having lots of blue plaques. But when the Prime Minister's then Chief Advisor, Dominic Cummings, went for a lockdown drive to test his eyesight,
and ended up on the outskirts of Barnard Castle town,
it got a new claim to fame. After attention turned away from Westminster, Barnard Castle still makes headlines and is now coming into focus. So has this small market town been changed by that infamous visit? And has it changed for good? Barnard Castle is usually a quiet town, tucked away in miles of rolling countryside. It's been my home for over a decade, so I've seen it have its busy moments over the years. But Dominic Cummings' lockdown visit has brought something unexpected to the town: national attention. The number of Google searches for Barnard Castle was 20 times higher than normal in the week the story emerged, and has remained above average ever since. And online interest is turning into tourists. The historic castle had its busiest September and October on record, with around a third more visitors than ever before. For the chair of the County Tourism Board, figures like these are cause for optimism.
I've talked to my colleagues and we've said that if we'd had to buy advertising of this amount, we could never have afforded it. We've had it for free. I think the small local shops have benefited. I know the owners of a number of those, and in the times when they were allowed to be open, they had remarkable success. They were doing very well. Accommodation providers as well did well in that time and will do again as soon as the restrictions are lifted. There's quite evidence of that.
Some of the business owners I spoke to said last summer's takings were up 30% on previous years, despite the pandemic. But they were reluctant to say they were doing well on camera, mainly out of fear it had looked like they were defending the controversial visit. The Tourism Board is also cautious.
Well, we hope to make the most of newfound fame, but we will not, absolutely not, be using the Dominic Cummings visit as a hook in any sense. I think we're prepared to build on the visitor numbers and the popularity, but without actually referring to that.
Other businesses I've spoken to say the rush of interest in the town has left them with mixed emotions.
You did have a bit of a splurge of, the kind of the touristy people coming around, and they were from all over the country. That did bring you back to the level that you were at probably or expecting to be trading at. It's a catch-22. You've got the big publicity because of that, the political publicity of that, and that helped bring business back into Barnard Castle. Can't be a bad thing.
I think it's put Barnard Castle on the map a bit, but then I don't think people will then keep returning to Barnard Castle because of Dominic Cummings. I think they'll come here and they'll realise why he came, because it's such an amazing place, and that's essentially what will come out of this. In 5-10 years' time, we won't be talking about Dominic Cummings. People will be saying, have you been to Barnard Castle, because it's an amazing place. They will have forgotten about Dominic Cummings by then.
But for now, the politicised nature of this town's claim to fame is hard to ignore. Eye test posters for sale, tourists photographing the Barnard Castle sign. Staff at the town's Specsavers branch told me they'd had 3 fake appointments under Dominic Cummings' name. But for some, the joke's starting to wear thin. This is a community that suffered immense loss in the past year, and grieving in an unexpected spotlight has caused an anger that's hard to swallow.
My dad was a very strong, old-school gentleman, very well-to-do during his life and had done very well for himself up until sort of COVID, and it all started going particularly wrong.
Teresa Keeling's dad caught coronavirus in hospital and died 9 days after Dominic Cummings' visit. The only person with him was a care worker.
Really, I suppose up until this day, I still haven't had any closure to my father's death. And we stuck to the rules. Everybody was sticking to the rules. It was important.
Do you think your anger is a shared feeling here?
I think people got sick and tired of people running around with cameras and microphones and trying to get them on telly and trying to find out what exactly happened. House prices are starting to go up. and they're starting to go up quite a lot and quite quickly.
And the market's moving faster than ever. One local estate agent told me prices here had soared 13% year on year. That's well above the national average of 7.5%.
One of the biggest hazards you have there is then local people won't live in Barnard Castle because the next generation won't be able to afford to, who've been taught how to live like that. And Barnard Castle will lose the most amazing community it is, which shone all the way through lockdown.
Teresa isn't alone in having concerns. I posted in a Barnard Castle Facebook group about this documentary, and what comes across in a lot of comments is that residents are fed up of the Dominic Cummings link. There's frustration that this is what got the town noticed, rather than its history and beauty. As one person writes, the town is a far better story than Cummings. And it's while caught between this frustration and the tourism boom that residents are voting in local elections. Barnard Castle's 2 wards are the Conservative strongholds in a county traditionally dominated by Labour. When these seats were last up for election, Tory candidates won 2/3 of all votes. But Conservative support dipped in national opinion polls after the Cummings scandal and has only recently started to recover. The question here is whether the Tories can hold on to their huge majority. Labour is looking to make inroads.
I think the Dominic Cummings situation, if anything, has fostered a huge amount of apathy, which means that when we go out, our first job is not flogging ourselves as candidates or our party. It's encouraging people that they should vote and that it means something.
People are jaded. They think that it's a them and us situation. They can do what they like. We can't do anything, and we'll be paying for it in the end anyway. So people just don't want to get involved. Go around and knock on doors. What we get is you're all the same. Well, we're not the same because we're not councillors. That's the difference.
Also hoping for a change of direction are the Liberal Democrats, who are fielding a candidate here for the first time in a decade. Do you think the Dominic Cummings controversy will change people's minds? Do you think this will affect the election?
No, I don't. I think it's in the past. It was a year ago. People were angry at the time, but we've moved on. And this is a local election, and there's a lot more things to be dealing with now. And we need a new start, really, don't we? Different politicians, different parties. Let's hope it will change.
I contacted the 4 Conservatives standing for re-election, and they declined my multiple interview requests. But Councillor Richard Bell wrote, "Cummings and any effects of his visit have not come up in any conversations I've had while out leafleting. He's previously told The Guardian he does not believe the Tory vote will be impacted." The Green candidate said she wasn't available for interview. This scandal has undoubtedly put Barnard Castle on the map, and its effects have rippled and divided residents. Some embrace the rush of interest, others would rather keep their heads below water and move on. This town has been forced to adapt, but it may take years to see how deep-rooted those changes are.